Well, the government's inquiry into COVID-19, the sham, in my opinion, inquiry, not a royal commission as was promised before the current Prime Minister was elected, is proceeding and is, quite frankly, rather meaningless. This is the government's typical attempt to try and whitewash, investigate itself, and come to the conclusion that it did absolutely nothing wrong. Well, I'm not the only person who's drawn that conclusion. There are many, many good people who are very aware that this inquiry is meaningless, and they're working to try and force the government to actually do what it promised before it was elected. And that is to hold a royal commission. But importantly, with royal commissions, the terms of reference are crucial because they put limits around what that royal commission can look at, and getting those right is the first step to getting the commission to actually do its job, and to investigate. Well, there is a deadline of tomorrow. Friday is the deadline for people to make submissions on what the terms of reference should be. And AMPS the Australian Medical Practitioners Society, have done a wonderful job of creating a set of terms of reference. And Duncan Syme, the Deputy Director, joins me now. Duncan, thank you for joining us here on the Aussie Wire.
Thank you for having me, Topher. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about what is essentially a people's document. It's not a government or bureaucratic document. It is a document which is both immensely comprehensive and thorough, looking at, as you said, the depth and breadth and the questions that need to be asked about what has happened in what is undoubtedly the greatest public health disaster of modern Australian's history.
Well, even putting aside you and my perspective on the quality of the response, we were told relentlessly by the media and by government that COVID was unprecedented and they had to do all of these unprecedented things. It seems unthinkable to me that a government would, after doing all these unprecedented things, even if they say they got them all right, would not then go back and review and see what lessons could be learned. And indeed, we were promised that that was going to be the case. Why do you believe that hasn't been delivered on?
Well, I think you probably can look into the way bureaucracies work, and governments and bureaucrats do not want to investigate things which may show them in a bad light. I think there's a classic Yes Minister scene where Sir Humphrey Appleby says, "You never start an inquiry you don't know the answer to."
Sadly, Yes Minister was much closer to the money than I think a lot of us wanted to believe at the time, and we're watching a very bad episode of Yes Minister play out right before our eyes. Tell me a little bit about this terms of reference document. It is in fact over 100 pages long. I've got a little clip of it here. Anyone can download it. We'll give you the URL to find that in the show notes in the description underneath this video. But it's a phenomenal document, incredibly detailed. What was the genesis of this? Who decided that AMPS should be involved in doing something like this?
So basically, it was Julian Gillespie. I'm sure there were other people who were looking into it, but Julian Gillespie and his colleagues Peter Pham and Katie Ashby-Coppin. So they're all lawyers who have been very active right from the outset of these extraordinary times. They collaborated with at least 80 professionals, scientists, lawyers, economists, other individuals with various specializations, and put together this document in looking to see what questions were not asked and were not done in the process of all this decision making. And they came to AMPS, who the executive, and said, "Listen, we're wanting to put this document out. Will you support us in this endeavour?"
Yeah.
And we said, "Yeah, absolutely," because we also believe that there was many things that were done tremendously badly throughout this whole period, which has caused immense suffering to all Australians. And we've seen the most incredible human right and civil rights removal in this period, and we need these questions asked to make sure that this does not happen again.
Indeed. Now, the AMPS website here is showing that you're currently up to 28,000 plus signatures. I believe actually the rate at which those signatures are coming in is quite phenomenal. What are you actually up to now?
We're actually up to above 34,000.
Wow.
And that's, when you think that this document really was only launched basically on last weekend, it's
Wow.
a phenomenal effort. And given that obviously we're heavily censored and shadow banned
Mm.
to get the message out, and I think Australians are thirsty to know the truth of what has happened. Who made these incredible decisions? Who did the assessment? Who was doing the risk assessments of making public health decisions which impacted on so many Australians' health and liberties? And basically turned what we thought was a democratic country, upside
Mm.
down.
Mm. Let me push back on you for a moment, though. Here, the government has said it's holding an inquiry. The government seems to think that that's good enough. Can we realistically believe that a petition like this, or that a document like this, is actually likely to have any impact? What's the mechanism that you're trying to use here to affect some kind of change?
Well, this is the I suppose the democratic and official way of looking into government decision making and bureaucratic decision making.
Mm.
And I think it's important that we look at this. I mean, it's not the only thing that we need to be doing,
Mm.
clearly,
Mm.
but it is the official way you'd normally look into poor, or review poor decision making by a government, or looking at any major issue that has created a great deal of controversy, um, uh, yeah, from a political, legal, economic, and social and health
Mm.
uh, position.
Now, I apologise for looking away from.
And
Sorry, you go.
yeah, yeah, and I said what people want. They want acknowledgement of what has happened.
Mm.
So the people who've been injured want acknowledgement. They want accountability for the people who have made these decisions, and understand what actual due diligence that do they do before making these decisions, and depart from what was the previous pandemic plan, which
Mm.
was done in August 2019,
Mm.
which had a lot of scientific evidence behind those decisions, which basically said do not mask, do not lock down,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly not to break time-honoured uh, bioethical principles by forcing populations to have be subjected to a poorly tested injectable therapeutic.
Yeah, look, it's
They want answers, and they ultimately want justice, because we know there are a lot of people who have been damaged, if not most of Australians.
Yes, certainly we've all been affected. That is for sure, and I think it's right that we want this looked into. We want to understand why and whether those decisions were correct. I apologise for looking away from the screen a moment ago. I just needed to have a look at my screen here and see this a bit more close up. So this COVID-19 Royal Commission Terms of Reference document that AMPS has worked so hard on and that you're asking us to co-sign is going to the Senate Legal and Constitutional Affairs Committee. And the members of that committee include the likes of David Shoebridge and Senator Alex Antic, and Senator Andrew McLaughlin, Senator Helen Polley, and a couple of substitute members as well. Now, I know that Alex Antic has been absolutely fantastic on all of these issues, and I'm sure that he will take the opportunity. If something like this is in his hand with 100,000 plus signatures, he's not going to let that opportunity pass him by to use that to try and demonstrate to the rest of that committee that there is enormous amount of demand and an enormous amount of unanswered questions. So that for me is really the mechanism of action. I've interviewed Alex many times before, Senator Alex Antic, and we've talked about the fact that him being in Parliament is great, but having the clear and obvious support of the people is what really enables him to have some influence and have some clout and really maybe get some things done. And this is an opportunity to do exactly that. Look, I encourage everyone. We'll put the link to the AMPS Red Union website and to the correct page to be able to find this. Very, very simple to add your signature to this particular document. Let's get this in to that committee. Let's get this in the hands of Senator Alex Antic. With over 100,000 signatures, there's less than a day left, so please help to spread the word. And thank you so much to Duncan Symes for coming on the Aussie Wire.
Thank you, Topher.